Welcome to Origin, Remember Your Truth, a podcast for everyone who senses there's more than meets the eye. I'm your host, Anna Hochwald, and I'm really excited that you're here again. Together we explore what lies beneath conditioning, roles, and learned identities through perception, energy, intuition, and lived experience. This is your invitation to remember your inner truth and your original frequency. Everything here is for you to feel what's true for you. Take what resonates and throw out the rest. On today's episode, I will be introducing the concept of human design, which I've mentioned already at least once, and I've also been asked about, so I figured, why not introduce it? Before I go into that, I'd like to answer some questions that have come up from the previous episodes. So also here, I really invite you to send me a message, voice message, direct message, comment on the episodes on Spotify, whatever suits you. If you have questions or you want to know more, let me know so I can react. One question was regarding me saying that I would like for you to remember your original frequency. What do I mean by that? That is something I already hint at in the sentence before that in my introduction, that I want to remind you of who you truly are. If you don't live up to those standards that society has put upon you, and not live up to those standards, but I mean following the expectations that society might be putting on you, be it family, friends, work. There are so many expectations we are following, consciously or unconsciously. And think about it. If you lived in a world where there were no rules and you could just freely act and behave the way you want to, do the job you want to, act on the impulses that you feel, would you be doing the same thing you're doing right now? It's a question, a thought. That is what I mean by original frequency. And through that, because a lot of us, through these expectations, we're blocking ourselves from what we could truly be doing, and also blocking our own potential. If you then look at that from an energetic point of view, and higher frequency means more energy, and if you're not living your full potential, that would mean you're at a lower frequency. I'm not saying higher frequency is always better, but as I'm talking about your original frequency, the way you yourself could be in balance with yourself in that frequency. And that's what this podcast is also meant as, for you to remember that. It doesn't mean that you have to agree with this podcast. As I said, I will trigger you on purpose or not on purpose. And if that leads you to understanding and feeling what you truly want and want to be and who you are, then great. If that means you leave this podcast and never listen again, still great, because you found your true path. That's what this podcast is for. It's not to generate followers. I just want people to be able to be themselves, their true selves, and show whatever they want to show. If they don't want to show anything, that's fine as well. But that you don't have to worry about what might others think. They'll always be thinking something. You'll never manage to make all of them happy, unless maybe you just live your true self and you're happy. Most of the times that does make other people happy for you. And if they're not, then they're not your people. And also one thought here, stray thought. We always worry about what others might think about us. Guess what? Most people are thinking the same. They're worrying about what others might be thinking of them. 99% of the time, everyone is thinking about themselves. So most likely, they're not even judging you for doing anything because they're busy with themselves. So do your thing. That's my message with the original frequency. That was a long answer, probably, for a short question. And another question was regarding when I talk about the nervous system and talking to my nervous system in a visualization. That was kind of a meditation practice, which was guided so that I could get more in contact with my nervous system. And by that, you could also say that I'm talking to my body, but I call it nervous system so that I kind of make a persona out of it, which makes it easier for me to first detach from it. I mean, I know I'm talking about you should go into your body and feel what you're feeling inside, on the inside, but sometimes it helps to take a step back. So I'm looking at my body or my nervous system. Really, I see this picture you sometimes see in biology books where you have the whole central nervous system and all the nerves in a humanoid shape, and that's what I am envisioning, kind of, as the body. And I'm looking at it from the outside. So then I'm no longer in the feeling, okay, I feel my heart is tightening or my throat is blocked or whatever. But I look at it more from the outside, and then I go for an actual conversation with my body instead of just feeling, oh, my foot hurts. I zoom myself out. It's more of a meta perspective. It's hard to explain in rational terms. But then I talk to my nervous system as though it were a person. And when I really open up my senses, I'm already seeing that this will lead to another question from that specific friend that has a lot of skeptical, rational, critical questions, which I love. They're great because they help everyone else who has those questions. And to be fair, I would have had those questions as well a year ago. Yeah, to make it fair, to be honest. Now I have effectively distracted myself. I'm coming back, opening up my senses. That's where I lost it, which is funny. When I open up my senses in this way, I really get words. I just let them come to me. I don't think that rational thinking part of my mind, I just put somewhere else, put it aside, and just let words come to me. And that's then my body speaking to me, telling me, I'm scared. I feel like this is going too quickly. I need more time. Or then if it says, I'm scared, I don't want to be doing this, this makes me feel sick, I ask, okay, what would you need? For example, with launching this podcast, my nervous system wasn't exactly thrilled. So instead of pushing it through, I asked, okay, what would you need to feel safe? What would we have to do? So then my nervous system told me, or my body, it's this persona that I give this name to, more or less. It told me, okay, we need these smaller steps. Okay, so I followed those steps. But that is what I mean when I talk about my nervous system and when I'm talking to it. Sometimes it could also be, for example, after launching the podcast, I was talking about my nervous system more or less in the third person. So basically, I'm talking about myself in the third person because I launched the podcast a bit earlier than planned. And I was talking about my nervous system feeling. Yeah, in the end, then it was overwhelmed again because it didn't even have time to prepare. It was in shock. So basically, I was in shock. But this helps me. It doesn't necessarily have to help you to get a different perspective because then I am not in those feelings directly. I know I say feel through your feelings, but when we're just stuck in them, it's very hard to get some clarity and to get out again. So sometimes zooming out, okay, that's it. Then you can go back in. I hope this answered the question, and I'm already looking forward to more questions and slowly answering all the other questions that I got from my very special friend, who I believe will keep me occupied this way. Thank you. Now, regarding human design is a body-based system that shows you how your energy is designed to work and how you're meant to make decisions, how you interact with life before you're conditioned. So it would be the baseline if you didn't have the things that you naturally will have picked up through life, through what your parents taught you, what school taught you, what your job taught you, the city, town, whatever you're living in, all of it conditioned you. And a pointer here for human design, I did not come up with this system. I am introducing the system, explaining it to you in simpler terms. I sometimes use it, but I do not take it in any dogmatic way or as a rule to be followed no matter what. It's a nice option if you want to understand yourself in retrospect, I think. And it can also be helpful with other people just to understand them, because you might know them, how they react, but then you see, okay, that's why they're triggered always in this situation, or why that makes them tired, or why in this situation we both clash. So it is a tool you can use. You don't have to. Like I said, I was asked about it. I wanted to at least explain it. And I've also not known it for that long, less than a year actually. And human design, astrology, and all these systems, I was completely unaware of them for most of my life. I mean, just, a bit of a personal story here. Astrology, for example. I didn't even know all the zodiacs. I mean, I knew my own zodiac. I'm Scorpio. The next zodiac after that I knew was Pisces, and 4 others because those are just the main family members that have those zodiacs. But everything in between, I didn't even know all of the zodiacs that existed, let alone the order or what they were supposed to represent. So it's not something I ever lived by before. But when finding out about it, and after already knowing myself what I actually am like, I found it highly interesting and entertaining. And entertaining is maybe it's not the wrong word, because I truly did find it entertaining, but it's not meant as entertainment. But the accuracy with which I could pinpoint my characteristics just by having my birth date, time, and place, because that's what you need. The day, the exact time, and where you were born. And from that, I could already see so much of who I am, how I'm gonna develop, what my soul has chosen to develop into and wants to learn in this life. And that I found very interesting. But like I said, to me, the important thing was that I already knew myself before. So I got it as confirmation afterwards when working with the system that, this system fit me and everyone else that I had a look at, or also everyone else I heard about that had used it. It fits most of the times, depending on how you play it out in your life. But if I had been told before, I will go into that now, what human design tells you about yourself. But if someone had told me, oh, you're that, and that means you're that way, and I would have had to believe it, that for me personally, that would have been difficult, because I like to experience it first, and then the proof is nice afterwards. And also it's, I think, a human trait that we like to have things explained and put things in categories or even labels, though I'm not a fan of labels. Definitely not. And yeah, I don't see human design as an absolute at all, and I don't want you to do that either. always be critical, always check in with yourself. Does this feel true to me? And we'll be getting into authorities also, that and how you can make that out for yourself, what feels true to you. Always do that. If this whole thing seems weird to you, I do invite you to listen to it, because at least give it give it a chance. I'm not defending human design or anything, but I do know that sometimes first impressions can be wrong, or if you didn't even try, like food. Say you've never tried Indian curry and you just say, no, I don't like it. But if you don't try, you won't know. So at least try, and then you can say confidently, no, this is not for me. Great. Then we know that. That is good. So now let me actually get into what human design is, because human design was channeled by a guy in 1987, Ra Uru Hu. That's not his birth name, on Ibiza. And this system combines several ancient systems and modern systems together. It's a body-based decision-making framework. So you have it being comprised of astrology, which for that you need your time, exact time and date, location of birth, which gives you themes and archetypical influences in your life. It's also comprised of the I Ching, which consists of 64 hexagrams, which then become 64 gates, or if you go to even another system, 64 gene keys. And those describe specific life challenges, talents, life themes, and frequencies. It's also comprised of the Kabbalistic tree of life, which is comprised of the 9 centers that you have. When you will see, I'll put a link in the show notes so you can create your own human design profile, or body graph as it's called. And there you have 9 centers, which are connected or not connected by certain channels. The chakra system is also a part of it. There, instead of 7 chakras, you have an expansion to 9, because there's an addition of 2 centers. And the more modern systems would be quantum physics and the neutrino theory, that also add up to human design, and the idea that we are continuously informed by subatomic particles. Now, before I go further into this, know that I am not a human design expert. There are a lot of human design experts out there. I didn't know, but apparently there are. And there are whole podcasts just on human design, with episodes daily, weekly, that talk about nothing else but human design. You can go through weeks and months of training. I have been going rather deep into it, but every topic I go into, I never just scratch the surface. However, I am also not a human design expert. It's one of the tools I sometimes use, but if you want very precise details, then I invite you to go online. There are so many free resources, YouTube podcasts. You can get all the details also on your own chart. It's all available. Now, human design is supposed to help you to go through life with less resistance, to make decisions that are aligned with your way of making decisions, literally. Now, as I mentioned, there are lots of details that you can go into that I will not be going into, but the main things that you can read very easily out of your chart or body graph are your human design type, the strategy with which your type reacts to life, or let's say responds to life, and your authority, which is your inner decision-making compass. On top of that, you have a profile with different lines that shows how you learn, how you express yourself and experience life. Now, your type or energy type. Let's start with that. There are 4 or 5, depending on how you count it, different types You have the generators and manifesting generators. If we put them in one category, then we have 4 types in total. They make up around 2/3 of the population, and they have a sustainable life force energy. What does that mean? Sometimes they're also called the Duracell bunnies of this planet, which can be misleading because they do have a constant energy output if they are working in alignment with what truly makes them happy and brings them joy. They're sometimes also called the builders of life. Now, every type has a strategy with which they are supposed to react to life. A generator is supposed to wait to respond to life. I personally am a generator. So what does that mean? I have to respond to life. One very easy, simple example is if someone asks me, do I want to come over? I can just check my gut. It's yes or no, and then I go or I don't, because I simply respond. Could also mean, say, I don't like my job. I do. I'm creating my own job, so I do, but say I don't or didn't, it wouldn't be according to human design and how you're supposed to respond. Just to make this clear again, I'm relaying what human design is, not my personal opinion. According to that, I would, if I wanted to quit, not say I want to quit, but talk to people, browse job openings, maybe hear someone mention a role, and then depending on how my body responds to that, afterwards, I get into action. Now, I think I'm going to skip the manifesting generator for now and go straight for the next energy type. Actually, I'm seeing now maybe I should introduce all of the energy types first before I go into them. So you have the generator and manifesting generator, the manifester, the projector, and the reflector. Now, before going into the manifesting generator, which is kind of it's a mixture of manifester and generator. That's a subform, the end of the generator. So I'll go to the manifester first. But actually, before I forget, every energy type has a self-theme, it's called, or signature, and a not self-theme. So when a generator is aligned, they feel satisfied. When they are not aligned with and not doing what makes them happy, because that is super important for a generator, they feel frustrated. Now, to the manifestors. The manifestors, as the name already suggests, they are the initiators. They have impact. When they are in their self-theme and acting the way they should in life, they feel peace. On the other hand, their not self-theme would be anger. Manifestors make up around 9%, 10% of the population. Their strategy is to initiate. They're here to start things, to come up with new ideas, but they are not here to sustain them necessarily, because their energy works a bit differently from generators that have this, or can have this, rather constant energy output, which does not mean they work 24/7. They need to sleep as well. But the way a manifestor's energy works is that it works in short bursts. They initiate something, then they need rest, and then they act again. So forcing a manifestor into constant availability, controlling them, interrupting them, that really distorts their energy and does not give them the peace that they could be living. The manifestors, they inform before they act, at least when they want to prevent friction amongst, for example, a team, but they don't ask for permission in that way. They simply inform, okay, I'm going to do that now, or start that new company, or whatever it is they come up with. Their aura can feel intense or unpredictable to others. Right, now that we covered the manifestors, I'm going to go back to the generators and then the manifesting generators, which make up a bit less than half of the generators. Now, they also have the self theme of satisfaction, so they are allowed to follow or should follow their joy, and they are frustrated when they're not following it. So if you're a manifesting generator and you feel frustrated, that's always what this not self theme is for, or can be used for, because it does not necessarily have to be that. But it can be a sign as a manifesting generator or a generator. If you're frustrated, you might check in with yourself. Okay, am I following my joy right now? Is this aligned with what I want, with who I am? Of course, not everything in life is awesome. There are just things that's life that aren't fun and you do them. But I'm talking more the larger spectrum things, like your job, not vacuuming the living room. If that really pulls you down that much, then maybe if you're living with someone, you can work something out there, but that's not the magnitude that I'm referring to right now. So the manifesting generators, they respond to life as well, just as the generators, but they also initiate. However, first, the manifesting generator would wait to respond. As an example, a manifesting generator could be hearing about a project and immediately have this feeling, yes, I want to do that. So they could start moving very fast and quickly and maybe start a completely different project. And ideally, then, to reduce friction, they inform the relevant people before doing so. If a manifesting generator, for example, starts a course and they realize halfway, no, this isn't my thing, the correct response for them would be to drop it, even do a 180, whatever, and just move on with the next thing, which for a manifesting generator would not be considered as flaky, but as efficient behavior and following their strategy. Now, for projectors, they make around a fifth of the population. Their core themes are to guide and to see others. Their signature or self-theme would be success. So when they're feeling success, then they're in their zone. But when they're not acting according to their energy type and according to their strategy, they would feel bitter. Also, regarding their energy type, they're not here for constant output, not like the generators. So they are very energy sensitive and not energy generating in a way that the generators are. And energy sensitive, I don't mean something like highly sensitive necessarily, because generators can be just as highly sensitive. But it's about how much energy can you put into things and how constant, because projectors, they work more in short bursts or with very focused engagement. But between output, they really need rest. And they're really here for seeing others, for guiding people, optimizing systems. And you could say they're not here to work more, but to work smarter, which does not mean projectors are lazy. Projectors are often leaders. Now, I would have to double check that, but I think Obama, for example, is also a projector, but please don't make me swear on that or anything. But yes, leaders often are projectors. Their strategy for life is to wait for invitations. Now, what does that look like in real life? First of all, what could an invitation look like? It could be a recognition of your insight or skill or perspective. Or an invitation could also be followed by an opening to engage. Now, for a projector, if their mind says, let's say they see an inefficiency at work, and their mind says, I should tell them how to fix it. The correct strategy, according to human design, would be to wait until a boss asks for input, or someone says, what do you think? Or they're invited into a role or a meeting where then they can speak. Otherwise, their advice might feel intrusive, or they feel ignored or bitter. But from what I've heard from projectors, you can also kind of elicit your own invitations. You don't have to literally wait for someone to always ask you. But I'm not a projector, and like I said, I'm just introducing this system. I think from what I've heard, it's easier to understand your own type when you're living it, really, or seeing it. Because I personally, as a generator, I find it hard to understand a projector explaining it. And I'll be completely open about that. But I want to give you at least some kind of overview so that then if you are a projector, you can go more deeply into it, and most likely you understand yourself better than I do or could explain to you. Now, the last type, we have the reflectors. Those are rather rare, make up about 1% of population. Now, as the name suggests already, their core themes are really a reflection of the environment and everything and everyone around them. Because they have, I mentioned in human design, you have these centers, which you'll also see if you print your body graph or just get it online. And none of their centers are defined. That is not bad. None of these, also something I want to say, types are good or bad. They just have different challenges in life because they're just different types. That's it. So for a reflector, the self or signature theme would be surprise, and the not self theme would be disappointment. As they don't have defined centers, they mirror the health of their environment and everyone around them. When you talk to a reflector, how could you say it? You could call them like living barometers, because they kind of show us how we're doing because they reflect it, which can be great if you're talking to a reflector, but as a reflector, I assume it might sometimes be difficult, especially if you're not aware of it, to figure out who you are if you're just reflecting everyone else. And for example, for big decisions, reflectors, they need time. And I mean really big decisions, not what are you going to have for breakfast, but am I going to move to a different city? And there they need like a full lunar cycle, as in 29 and a half days, according to this system. Because then they would have gone through all the phases, have gotten all the reactions from their environment to be able to react properly or fully informed and feel also like they are informed enough to make a decision. Now, about their energy, they don't have this consistent access to energy, and their energy fluctuates. They are more dependent on their environment as they amplify what's around them. So they're not necessarily designed for endurance, but more for awareness. Now, if I'm hearing this and I'm thinking, oh, maybe I'm a reflector and I'm an endurance athlete, does this mean that doesn't work? In my opinion, no, why? It should still work. It's meant more for the, I guess, more general work output in life. But also, I'm just giving you an introduction. It's not my system. Now we've gone through the main types and their strategies. So if you know now your type and strategy, because I invite you to maybe even already get your body graph before you continue listening with this episode. I should have thought this through before. That would have been helpful to tell you that before, but you can still do it now. It's just a couple of clicks, and then you can continue listening or you come back. Now, something very, very, very important is your inner authority. Summing it up, your inner authority tells you how you can make decisions efficiently. So there are 7 different authorities, and depending on which one you have, your decision-making process is different. So let's start with the sacral authority. A lot of generators have a sacral authority. I have a sacral authority, and it can be helpful sometimes and make decisions quick if you know your authority and you're actually using it instead of fighting it, because that's another thing. Even if you know what your authority is, if you're fighting it with your mind, and even though you already know what your decision is, then, well, awareness is one step, but actually acting on it is the second step, which is the fun step. So, sacral authority, that is really this gut feeling, yes or no, because we often hear trust your gut, trust your instincts. It's not all the same, and not everyone has a gut feeling. That's why I'm so careful with saying gut feeling, but yeah, I can't say, okay, your ego authority or whatever you have, because not that many have that, and most people, if I say that, will look at me like I'm crazy, understandably. So, yeah, you say trust your gut feeling, your instincts. Okay. About the gut feeling, it's really a yes or no. If I have this question, do I want to do this course? Do I want to sign up for this workshop? I can really go into myself and ask, and I know it's a yes or a no. Or if I don't know how to ask that yet, I can simply imagine, okay, I signed up for the workshop. If I feel good then I know that was a yes. If I don't feel good, it was probably a no. And to practice that, I invite you really now, when you find out what your authority is, to practice your authority in real life. And already, yeah, knowing your authority makes it so much easier. Okay, the next authority is the emotional authority. So someone with an emotional authority really goes through waves. You should not be making important decisions quickly. Sacral authority, you get that yes or no, and you get it more or less immediately. So I can, on the spot, make a quick decision. But with the emotional authority, there will be waves. First, you might be thinking, I don't know. And then you're like, yes, this is really good. And then you're back in that low and, oh, no, I shouldn't be doing this. Next day, you wake up, oh, yes, I'm going to do that. So you really need a couple of days until the waves basically ebb off. And then you know, okay, that's my thing. So with an emotional authority, even if at first you think, oh, this might be good, sleep on it. Trust me, sleep on it, because you might change your mind the next day. Hint here, even with sacral authority, you could change your mind, but that's then because some new information came in. But usually the decision itself was made. It's just when the circumstances change, then, of course, new decision process. Yeah, so for emotional authorities, they need time. They literally need to sleep on it at least once. Usually, 3 to 5 days, I think, is a good time frame for important decisions. Like I said, we're not talking about your breakfast cereal. Otherwise, you'll be hungry at some point. And this already, if you know, for example, your partner's or your family's authorities, this can be fun, because I found out now that in my family, everyone has an emotional authority. I have a sacral authority, and that just explains some things, some differences. Now, the next authority is the splenic authority, which is very similar to the sacral authority, but it's kind of a quiet instinct. You know, but usually it just comes once. So if you're not that aware of it yet, you might miss it, miss the signal. It could be like you go into a room and you just instinctively know, I'm not supposed to be here. So this is something I invite you, if you have splenic authority, to really practice, to notice, and then to use to your advantage. Now there's also the ego or will authority, which is not that common. And there you can ask yourself, do I want this? Am I willing to put in the work for this? So the want here is very important. It's not as straightforward as sacral or emotional authority. Then you have the self-projected inner authority. There you can make your decision by hearing yourself speak. So those are people that they start talking about a decision they're going to make, and then mid-sentence they say, just while saying this, it makes sense to me now, I'm going to do that. So they talk themselves into clarity. Then you have the mental inner authority, and they also get clarity through talking, but talking to others and with others and hearing from others. So they need to hear more from their environment to make really informed decisions that feel true to them. And lastly, you have the lunar inner authority, which is reserved for the reflectors, because they, as I mentioned before, they really need clarity over a full lunar cycle for important decisions, which can be tough. I know real life will not always provide that, or seldomly provide that, depending on your situation. But if you're already aware of it, it helps that you know to give yourself as much time as you can to feel as good as you can with that decision. So this authority, it tells you how to make the decisions, not what to decide. And then lastly, because as I said, I'm going to leave out the energy centers, the channels, and the different gates, because I could be spending hours here and we'd still not have gone that deep. And it's also not that necessary, because for knowing how your energy functions, how you should be reacting to life, and how to make decisions, this is already more than enough. So the only thing I want to still mention are the profiles, which show how you learn and experience life. And in the profile, you have two numbers. The first number is your conscious role, and the second is more of the unconscious role, how others see you. So it's not inside versus outside. It's really the self-aware, how you experience yourself, versus the embodied, maybe, or automatic self. So about these lines, there are 6 lines. Therefore, you have 2 numbers. Each number is something between 1 and 6. Line 1 is called the investigator. The investigator needs a solid foundation, is really into research, depth, security, and fears not knowing enough. I know that. I have line 1 as a first number. Line 2 is called the natural, also the hermit. Usually line 2 has an innate talent, and line 2 also needs a lot of alone time. Line 3, my second number, is the experimenter, or also the martyr. We learn by trial and error. This I can fully subscribe to. Looking at my CV, my life is trial and error. That sums it up pretty nicely. But the experimenter, if you're line 3, you're resilient, you're adaptable. And if you're working from the let's say the high road version of yourself, you see mistakes as data, not as failure. Then you have line 4, also called the opportunist. For line 4, relationships are everything. Life is network-based, and yeah, they kind of create, or they influence really through closeness. Then you have line 5, which is called the heretic or problem solver. Sounds better in my opinion. And line 5 is often, they're used or can be used as projection fields. And others expect solutions from them. They are also often leaders or people that are more visible to the general public. They can really be deeply impactful or severely misunderstood depending on what they represent and how, strongly or not that strongly, whatever they are representing aligns with societal norms and stuff like that. Then you have line 6, which is called the role model, and also sometimes it's said that they have 3 life phases. The first 30 years or so of life are or the trial and error phase. Then from 30 to 50 years, they have this observation and integration phase, and then from 50 years onwards, they're really embodying what they do and leading just by being also. Like I said, I'm relaying the numbers. I believe there are, looking at these profile numbers, leaders that have 6s, and they might already be leading at age 25 or something. Now, their gifts of the line 6 are really perspective and integrity, and their core theme you could call embodied wisdom. So yeah, to sum up, in human design, what's most important for you now is to check, with help of the links I'll put in the show notes, to get your own body graph, though there are so many sites that you can check your human design profile for free. So you check out what your type is, your energy type, if you're a generator or a projector, and then from that, okay, how are you supposed to respond to life? And maybe if you think, oh no, I have to listen to the whole podcast episode again, what was the manifester supposed to do? How was he supposed to respond to life? Don't worry, these profiles already give you the overview on how to respond to life. That's where it says strategy and your self or not self theme. So you'll see that immediately. They also tell you your authority, because this is something you can really easily experiment with in everyday life. And they tell you your profile, which is just nice to know, I think, because it can explain your life very well in retrospect. And yeah, as I said, all of this, really take it critically, check in with yourself. What do I make of it? Give it a chance, but check in, is this for me or not? And don't use it, and that's my only advice for you, as an excuse. Because saying, oh, well, I'm a manifester. I just came up with this idea. I initiated it. I'm done now. That's sadly not how life works. And also a not self theme, if you're angry, maybe you're just, how do I put this in a friendly way? It's not meant as an excuse. Not like, oh, they made me work longer now, or I didn't get my break. Now I just get to be angry and behave in a completely unreasonable way. No, you have common sense, you're a responsible adult, and you have free will. So that is my message for you. Human design, astrology, all of those systems, they can be cool, but they're no excuse to just be behaving, I don't want to say in a childish way, because children don't know any better. And sometimes they, regarding letting emotions out, are even wiser than we adults are. But I mean, come on, I think you get what I mean. It will be the same as in astrology. I have that zodiac. I can't help myself. Yeah, you can, especially if you're aware of knowing that that is your zodiac and that planet, then you can most definitely help yourself because you know. If you don't know, you might have less of an excuse, but now you know, you listen to the episode, so sorry I took that excuse away from you. Or not sorry. Now, I hope this episode got you thinking or just answered your questions if you had them. So, if you have any other questions or want to know more about certain topics, please let me know. Send me a message. And if this episode resonated with you, or you know someone else who benefit from it, I'd be really happy if you could share it, follow me, rate, leave a review. That would help me grow and spread the word more quickly. So I hope this touched you in some way, and may you move through your day with curiosity, awareness, and some more of your own truth shining through. See you in the next episode.